We acknowledge that we were founded on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Attawandaronk, the Mississauga and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and now live on land that is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We have many representatives working across this land now known as Ontario, and we acknowledge that there are 46 treaties and other agreements that cover the territory. We are grateful to be able to work and live on this land, and thankful to the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial, and who continue to contribute to the strength of Ontario and to all communities across the province. To continue to center reconciliation, we encourage our team, partners, students, and teachers to take time to learn about the lands they are currently on. Visit native-land.ca for more information.
Good morning from Barrie Hill Farms, just north of Toronto, Ontario. It is Alan and Connor here, and we're happy to be joining you guys for your local food week. And today we're going to talk a little bit about asparagus. So a little bit about the farm first. We are a 550-acre farm north of Toronto, planting fruits and vegetables, anything from asparagus, which we're going to talk about, to blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, corn, potatoes, beans, peas, all kinds of fruits and vegetables. We supply into all the local grocery stores directly from this farm, and the farm has been around since 1968. Started growing tobacco for many years, and then they switched from tobacco to growing fruits and vegetables. So I'll talk a little bit about asparagus. For those that don't know what it looks like, that's what an asparagus root looks like. And it is grown in rows. So we'll just show you some rows here. If you look at the field, you can see some rows. And asparagus comes up out of the ground from these roots. Specifically, if you come in real close here, you will see that this would have been a root planted under the first vegetable that is ready to harvest in Ontario every year, and it comes up in early May and goes right through until but it'll start from a root. We'll go through and we will harvest it on these little buggies that you can see in behind me probably. And the workers will go through and they will cut it off fairly low. There is a bunch of asparagus that is cut already. You probably would recognize this, very similar to what you would see in the grocery store. When it comes out of the ground, you probably can see these little short ones. They are still not green. They are purple or white in the absence of light. These have already been cut. Okay, when the plant senses it, when it's been cut, it's root. Once it's sensed. Picking the asparagus is very simple. I could just show you. It just snaps like that. Okay, and that is an asparagus ready to go, ready to be eaten. Okay, so they are bunched together in bunches like this and then sent off to the stores for purchasing. The cycle of the plant, we will harvest this field every day. The plants will go from this to this in about 8 hours in good heat. So essentially, in the heat of the harvest, we can pick this field twice a day. Once first thing in the morning, and then again in the evening if we wanted to. A taller one you would see would grow. That would be about a day's worth of growth. So that's about 24 hours. Okay, so every day the field has to be harvested every day. So we'll just stick that in there. Eventually what's going to happen is in late June or early July, we're going to stop picking this field and it is going to grow out. So in the springtime, we would come and we would cut this all down, and it would start to look like an open field. And eventually, it's what's going to happen is, follow me over here. With me. So here we have a field. I'm not sure if you can see in the background. Has grown right up. We planted this field last year, so this is the second year. So these are asparagus. This is what happens to an asparagus plant when you let it grow out. So it'll grow out and it'll eventually turn to a fern, and it'll branch out. So this was planted last year. This is its second year. We'll wait yet another year probably before we start to harvest this field. So you can see, if you look in the background, it's quite different than looking at the asparagus that is low to the ground. We will spray this with herbicide and fungicide and some just to control the thing and let it soak up the energy from the sun and the rain right through until next year. And then we'll come through and we'll cut right down at the very bottom like we do over there, and the field will look bare. And then as it starts to grow, we'll start harvesting probably in 2 more years. So the first 2 to 3 years, we want this plant to get very strong roots, very good energy. So we won't actually cut it. We want to harvest it. It'll turn to a fern and it'll soak up all that energy, and all that energy is going to go back into the roots. So that's what we want to do. That would ensure that we have a great crop. The yield for asparagus is somewhere around 6,000 pounds to the acre. And we can pick that entire field over there in a day.
We have our first question.
Excellent.
From the Greek School GBA. What helps harvest the asparagus?
Heat. So what we're looking for is heat units from the sun. So for instance, we've just come through spring and we had several days of frost, and frost is not our friend. So what we're looking for is nice heat from the sun and some rain, some regular rain to help it grow. And that's what's going to make the plant flourish. Okay. So after about 3 years, we will give that field a rest over there, and we will come over here and we will start picking this field, and it'll go back into this field will go into production. What else can I tell you?
How many years is a field in production?
The field will be in production for about 20 years. So currently that field over there is getting ready to be retired because it's about 21 years old. It stresses the plant. The more years you keep picking the plant from the same place, the more stress on the roots, and production starts to go down. So instead of 6,000 pounds to the acre, we'll only get 2,000 pounds to the acre. So eventually that field will be retired. We retired a field last year, and then this field will be retired, and this is the new planting that will take over for that retired field. There's about 50 acres of asparagus that we're planting and producing here. Yep, you have another question?
Yeah. How many times can you pick an asparagus crop?
We can pick it every day. So every day it's going to fire off a shoot, and every day it's going to grow about 6 to 12 inches every day.
For about 6 weeks.
Yeah, we'll stop picking in the end of June because we have to rest the plant. So then from there, it'll start to do this. So that field over there that is all cut will start to look like this in about 2 months. So it'll start to grow out, and by the middle of July, end of July, they will be up to this height, and for which now it is now doing the opposite. Instead of growing and we're harvesting it, we're letting it grow and soak up all of the energy from the sun, all the water, all the minerals that come in the rain, and that's going to come through the fern that's going to be extended, and it's going to go into the roots, and it's going to make the roots strong. So then over time, you're going to get a good yield out of your field until you're ready to retire it.
Okay, so the roots that you showed us, will that grow just one asparagus?
No, so if we look at the roots, so this will get planted. You can see there's many shoots that come off. So if we take one shoot, it'll shoot up an asparagus here, and here. We will pick it. The plant will sense that we've picked it, and it'll shoot up another one right here, and maybe right here, and maybe right here. And then it'll sense that it's been picked again, and it'll send. And these roots will continue to grow long, and they fill in an entire row. And that's what's going to shoot. So that is the actual crown. That is the root of the asparagus. And there's literally hundreds of thousands of them planted in a field by hand, by workers that'll put them in. Every single one is hand planted.
Okay, what type of soil is best for asparagus?
Sandy soil. So if you look at the ground here, we have it's very acidic, and it's like a sand. And that sand allows the water to penetrate, and all the richness to penetrate into the roots, so the roots can soak it up. So it likes an acidic, sandy soil.
Okay, next question. Is there a special type of seed for asparagus? Sloan in kindergarten.
Okay. Most of the asparagus plants are planted from a root, not from a seed. The seeds are engineered in the universities. So most of the plants here are of the male variety, because they've discovered that the male variety puts out the best yield. So it's not grown from a seed, it's grown from a root. And these roots are planted, which create more roots, and then they would harvest. There are farms that just harvest the roots. So they grow asparagus just to have this crown multiply into more crowns so that they can get the root out. So everything is planted from a crown, not from a seed.
How big can the root be?
The clumps of roots, we had one that we pulled out to show and demonstrate. It had to be probably almost 1.5 feet in round. And then there's one here, there'll be one right next to it and right next to it. So they spread out quite far, and they can get, it's too bad we don't have that one, but they get very large. So they can be like 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. They're almost like a small ball.
How many people are needed to help pick the crop?
So we are a pick your own operation. So we actually rely on people to come pick the crop themselves. But totally we have about 20 workers that are, working the field. This is just one field that they'll crawl around on these carts that you can see, really low to the ground to make the cuts. We have a couple other fields where there'll be 10 or 15 workers working in that field. They will harvest all day from about 7 a.m. Until 8 o'clock at night to harvest the field so that it doesn't furt out like you see this field over here. Keeping it low to the ground, cutting it every day, and harvesting it every day.
We have another question from Evelyn. When your new field is ready to harvest, how many individual asparagus stalks will it produce?
Individual stalks would probably be in the millions. So a 9 acre, if you can span the just have a span of this field, that's a 9 acre block right here. And there's probably over 1 million plants. And from each plant will come a shoot every day. So it literally is millions. It's millions of asparagus that'll come out individually.
Emmett in kindergarten is asking, how do you harvest asparagus so fast?
So fast? Well, it's kind of a slow process, actually. They will go through, they have to cut each one with a knife. So they're grabbing the plant and they're just cutting it off with a knife, and then putting it into their yellow bins. I'm not sure how close you can get that picture. So they're pretty good at it. They've been doing it for years, and they can do this whole field. These 4 guys will take all day to do this whole field.
Okay, and Sarah Quinn asked, how much water does an asparagus plant need from Douglas?
Well, it's fairly dry right now, so there is not a whole lot of water. So we rely on Mother Nature. In July, we would probably start irrigating the fields. That's when we want the plant to strengthen the roots. So in July and August, we would irrigate. But from now till then, it's reliant on Mother Nature and the rain that we would get.
And we would really only start irrigating the fields once they turn into these ferns and after we've stopped harvesting it, because that's when we want it to get its most energy, right? Next question. How many acres do you need to grow asparagus? Can I grow it in my own backyard? From Luke.
Yes, you can grow it in your own backyard. We sell the roots to people that want to try to grow asparagus. It takes about 2 to 3 years before it's ready to be harvested. So, yep, a lot of people will grow it in their backyard. A lot of people will find it growing in the wild because it does grow in the wild too. So there's another type of, if anybody's familiar with fiddleheads, it's of the same family. So yeah, you can grow it at home.
Next question. Hello. Do any farms use technology to pick their fields?
They have created a bit of technology. For us, our technology is these carts. So instead of people walking down the field and cutting it when they're walking, they can ride these things, which saves a lot of time. They're always developing technology. I believe over in Europe, in that part of the world, they have machines that'll actually crawl the field and do the work for a human being.
Okay. Next question is, what made you want to be an asparagus farmer?
Well, that's up to Farmer Morris, who owns the place. He was probably looking for a crop to get started early in the season. Our first major crop is strawberries, which is not usually ready till the end of June. So we were looking for something at probably close to 40 some odd years ago that he could plant to get the season started. And asparagus is one of the first crops that is available right in the late spring, early summer.
Okay, and the next question, Holden is asking, what is your favorite fruit or vegetable that we grow on the farm?
My favorite is strawberries, which is getting ready to get going any minute. One of the things we didn't show is, follow me over here. Here's my favorite during this time of year is just eating asparagus right out of the field. It's not even cooked. It's absolutely delicious. Great little snack for after school.
Okay, next question from Raina. Did you plant your new field by hand, and how long did it take to plant it?
Yep, the new field was planted by hand, and it would have taken probably several weeks to plant that field. One plant at a time. Probably would have been about 10 or 11 workers working, and it would have taken about 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I think they have a big tractor that comes and kind of digs
the trench and makes the mound, and then they will lay the roots in as they go down, usually doing 4 rows at a time, and they'll put the seeds in. There is a unit they sit on behind a tractor that pulls them in behind, and they will drop the roots in, and then the tractor will fill in over top of the root automatically. But it does take a couple of weeks to get it done.
Next question, are there different varieties of asparagus?
There are different varieties. The variety that we mostly have here is called Millennium. And it's pretty much, it was engineered by the University of Guelph, probably close to 15 years ago. And that is a variety that they engineered to get a better yield. So it went from 1,000 to 2,000 pounds an acre to 4,000 pounds an acre just by the variety. A lot of farms planted male and female plants, and they discovered that the yield would be greater if it was all male plants. So 99% of the plants planted here are all of the male species.
Well, this is a good one. What tips could you give us if we wanted to plant asparagus in our school garden?
I would probably make sure you had the right type of soil. So testing your soil for an acidic soil. I would make sure that it was getting lots of heat from the sun, and water would benefit from it.
And I would also say that just so you know, when you plant the asparagus root, you want to give it, 2 years of growing. You let it grow for the season, cut it down, let it grow again the whole next season, cut it down, and then the third season, you're able to actually harvest the asparagus. Do the roots of the asparagus connect together from Nixon?
They may connect underground. That's how you would get the big roots. So they would put out another crown. The crown is the center of the root. It'd spawn out another thing. It could be it looks like a big mess of spaghetti noodles underground. So they do get intertwined.
Oh, there we go. From the Greek School GBA again. How many asparagus farms are there in Ontario?
I don't know.
That's a good question, but I think,
there's about 20, I think. There's not a whole lot.
In terms of pick your own?
Yeah, in terms of the pick your own, I believe we might be the only pick your own asparagus farm. There might be one more down around Guelph, but most of the farms are harvesting for production into the stores. We are, competing with your asparagus from Mexico and your asparagus from Peru. So again, trying to support local food week, and educating everybody about how they can buy local food is important. And that's why we supply into all the local chains around here. So we deliver right from the field, usually within the same day, to the store for people to purchase right in the grocery store.
Okay, and then is it hard to be an asparagus farmer?
I think it's hard to be a farmer in general. There are a lot of variables that a lot of the other businesses don't have. Weather, pests, picking conditions. There's so many variables that the farmer has to control in order to provide a good crop. We're one hailstorm away from having nothing, being wiped out by the weather. So that those are really your challenges, and producing a lot of different things. There's a lot of different knowledge that the farmer has to have in order to produce a good crop.
Okay, and next question is, what's your favorite way to eat it?
You saw my favorite way to eat it was right out of the ground. Believe it or not, guys, I don't barbecue it, and I don't cook it a lot. For me, that's my favorite way right there, to eat it. I'm not going to eat it again because it'll fall, but that's my favorite way. A little bit of dip even. So going home and having carrots, this is an alternative to that. Staying away from potato chips and staying away from food and supporting, what grows out of the ground. That's my favorite way.
Okay, next question is, how much space between asparagus plants do you have to leave when planting it? From Josh.
I think it's 6 inches, I believe. But what will end up happening is if you're planting them 6 inches apart, then they will slowly start to fill in the gap. If you guys look down here, and it might be easier to see over in this field with all the ferns in, but because a lot of this has been cut already, if you pop over to there, Connor, you'll see how far. So if we pop back over here, you can really see it better when it's growing out. So there they are. So they're roughly six inches to a foot apart, depending. There's a smaller one.
Okay, next question. This class maybe jumped in a little bit late, but did you mention how to tell if the asparagus plant is male or female?
I did not mention, and it's based on the roots that are by. So when the farmer will buy the roots to put into the ground, they order specifically the male plant. So pretty much all of the asparagus farms right now, they are growing the male species because it is the one that's going to produce the best.
Next question is, how do we deal with the pests on our farm?
The pests. So because asparagus is the first crop coming out of winter, there aren't a lot of insects yet because it's still too cold. And there isn't a lot of pests running around yet. It's not like a crop that would grow in the middle of the summer in the heat, where we are worrying about different animals that are coming through or insects that have taken. There isn't a lot of anything that is done. The plant grows naturally because it is the first one out of frost.
Connection. Oh my goodness. There we go. Sorry, we lost connection there for a second.
Sorry, we're back.
Sorry.
Did they get that last answer?
I don't.
Yeah. So like I was saying, this is the time that we have to worry. Late July and August is when we have insects to worry about, and that's when we're disease on the plant. That's when it worries. Not now. When asparagus is growing for producing, it's just out of frost, and we don't have as much concern. Now we have concern when it's in this stage. So late July and August, we will put some herbicide, fungicide, and stuff on the plants to control the insects and disease.
Okay, next question. Which stores do you sell to?
We sell to all the chains. Anybody who wants to purchase and support local food, we're supplying to them.
And what is your favorite thing about your job?
My favorite thing is supporting local food, growing local food, talking to people, educating people on how to eat. A lot of people don't know you can eat asparagus right out of the ground like we just showed, and teaching people how to eat food locally. That's what I love doing. Great question.
Yeah, thank you for a wonderful tour.
Thank you guys from Barrie Hill Farms up north of Toronto, just by Barrie. Thank you.